In 1914, a war had broken out in Europe. Folks back then referred it to as the Great War, but the term most people are familiar with is World War I. The two opposing teams were the Allies, or the
Entente,
and Central Powers, and by 1918 the Central Powers were the ones who lost. The war had caused many casualties and left mostly Europe in shambles, so it's only fair that the losing teams be punished for it. Amongst the members of the Central Powers, one country was to blame for the war's outbreak. That country is none other than Germany, or the German Empire. While everyone's was just as bad, arguably worse even, we'll only be talking about Germany's because it is the most infamous and was the one to fail miserably. While one of the major causes for the war's outbreak was the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, a problem made by and for Austria-Hungary, Germany was first to strike in the Battle of Liege. Germany was then given a treaty to sign, which is the infamous Treaty of Versailles. This treaty was a peace treaty ending the war and signed between Germany and the Allies. Though the consequences that came with the treaty was a lot. The German Empire had been given the war guilt clause, and he was told to take the blame, disarm, lose 13% of its territory, as well as pay 132 billion gold marks for the damage he caused. And so, I believe that this was a tad bit too much. My first point would be that the economy in Germany took a huge downturn after being given the fine. This, paired with the Great Depression spreading globally, was very devastating, especially for the Germans. The horrible conditions put the country in a position where harmful ideologies are more likely to grow and spread, which was exactly what happened. The Nazi Party was able to gain supporters by weaponizing their resentment towards the treaty's war guilt clause and exploiting the national humiliation. While the treaty didn't really make the Second World War inevitable, it still played a big role in fueling the rise of Nazism. Another drawback from the treaty is the territorial losses, which have also affected the economy. Germany lost 13% of its land area, which came with drastic consequences for its industrial and agricultural output. Second, Germany had no say and choice in the treaty signing. In Article 231, Germany was given the war guilt clause, meaning they had to take full responsibility for the war's outbreak and the damage done to the Allies. The Allies didn't notify Germany beforehand, and they weren't up for negotiations either. So then, the Germans were basically forced to sign the treaty due to their position in the war. An agreement was difficult to reach due to how unfair the treaty was for the losing empire. So, on June 17th, the Allied powers gave a 5-day ultimatum in which if Germany didn't sign the treaty, they would continue the war and invade his territory. This was a lose-lose situation for him, but since Germans couldn't afford to continue fighting, a surrender was ultimately the safest option. The treaty also ended up straying far away from how it was originally planned. The original draft for the treaty was called the 14 Points, made by Woodrow Wilson, America's president back then. It was cancelled due to the Allies, specifically France, wanting to give Germany a more severe punishment for starting the war's outbreak. Germany actually agreed with the 14 Points back in October of 1918, but since the alteration of the peace treaty, Germany protested against it. My point would be the original wasn't necessary for a change and that the Allies just wanted to give Germany a harsher punishment. A point France made is that they justified implementing the consequences because they were most affected by Germany. She talks about how the treaty was meant to bring peace and the harsh consequences were dawned upon so Germany wouldn't dare to repeat this. Not to mention she shares a border with Germany, so in theory it would help her to stay safer towards future attacks. Such a decision would obviously come with a great risk, considering the humiliation and resentment that would come with it. It would have turned out better if they were to discuss the outcome before enforcing it, which brings us back to my second point from earlier on how they didn't notify Germany beforehand about any of this. So in conclusion, I think that the Treaty of Versailles was in fact too harsh because of the lack of communication between the two parties involved and the consequences that came with it. While the intentions were good, the way it was executed was done horribly. The treaty is not often used as an example of what not to do when making a peace negotiation.